Okay, get rid of sports now. Time to go to what matters, saving our country. So I promised all of you, it's my 4th day of guest hosting Savage Nation, and I promised you I'd talk about my classmate Obama and how all of this has to do with Columbia University. So let's do it. What Obama and I learned at Columbia, how to destroy America. That's what I'm going to talk to you about. Remember when Geraldo opened Al Capone's vault live on national TV? I'm about to solve the mystery of Obama. I'm about to break the Obama code. I'm about to tell you everything about the way Obama and the people around him think. I'm about to rip open the true Obama plan to destroy our country because I was there when it was hatched. How do I know this? Because I was Obama's college classmate, Columbia, class of 83. I was easy to recognize, the lone outspoken conservative in a class of 700 students. I knew I was in trouble when my first political science class at Columbia was Communism 101, taught by Professor Trotsky in the Fidel Castro building at the corner of Marx and Lenin. I'm only half kidding. My experiences at Columbia were not far from that little joke I just told you. Not far at all. Everyone needs to hear my story because what Obama and I learned at Columbia explains exactly what Obama is doing to America today. The economy is in deep decline. There are no more jobs. The annihilation of the middle class. I call it the murder of the middle class. The demonization of business owners. The destruction of small business with rules and regulations and taxes that only big business can afford. The overwhelming debt and spending of out-of-control government. The millions of Americans losing their health insurance. The unimaginable increase in dependency through welfare, food stamps, unemployment, disability, and now, of course, free health care. It's all easily explained when you hear what Obama and I learned at Columbia. America's decline under Obama isn't due to a mistake or ignorance or incompetence. Stop calling him a dummy. It's a purposeful, brilliant plan hatched at Columbia to destroy capitalism, American exceptionalism, Judeo-Christian values, and the American dream. And as an assist, if they could get rid of Israel too, they would consider that the mother lode. Now, first thing you need to know is I never met Obama at Columbia. After all this time saying I know him like the back of my hand and he was my classmate, let me disclose to you, I never met him. And you should be worried about that too. Very worried. We were both political science majors, both pre-law, graduated on the same day. There were maybe 100 to 150 of us in the political science department, and I knew everyone. I knew everyone who was in the political science department at Columbia. And as the token big-mouth conservative patriot, they all knew me. But not Obama. Never met him, never saw him, never even heard of anyone by that name. And not one of my friends at Columbia, and I say I knew everyone, ever met him either. And at our 30th class reunion last May, I couldn't find a single classmate who ever met him. You know, it was 30 years later, and I was only speaking to my friends, none of whom ever met anyone named Barack Obama or Barack Hussein Obama or Barry Soetoro, the name he had in Indonesia. None of us ever met someone by that name or heard of anyone by that name. But there are people I didn't meet, right? So I went to the 30th reunion and started asking people. And nobody ever met him. No one. And these are liberals. These are leftists who love the guy. I'm sure they all wrote checks to his campaign, but none of them can admit they ever met him because they never did. And so then I found a professor at Columbia, Professor Henry Graff, the most honored professor in the history of Columbia. 45 years heading the history department. 45 years as the presidential historian at Columbia. And you're on the record, so I figured he probably wouldn't tell me anything. He'd be scared. And he said, okay, no problem. I'll tell you exactly what I know. What I know is never heard of him, never saw him, never met him. And it's impossible to graduate Columbia political science department without going to my history classes, which are almost all about presidential history. And every politician in history who ever graduated Columbia, I keep track of all of them, he said to me, Henry Graff, Professor Henry Graff. I keep track of all of them. He said, as an example, I knew you ran for the presidential nomination of the Libertarian Party. I was very proud to hear you won the vice presidential nomination. But I've never met an Obama, and there's never been an Obama registered in any of my classes. And that's impossible. And I have doubts about the story that he ever went here. Folks, you got a Manchurian candidate in the presidency. This isn't me just guessing. Something's wrong. So let's start with that. But now let's assume, because this is what I think, I've always said he went there. He got in and he graduated, but in between, he was never in class. And my guess is, and I've said this out loud in public for 5 years, when people ask me, well, why wasn't he in class? Did he not go to Columbia? Is this one big fraud? I always go, no. My guess is he went there, but he was too busy attending Communist Party meetings to ever show up at class. And I joked about that till someone pointed out in his own autobiography, written way before he ever knew he'd run for president or become president, his own autobiography, I think it's called Dreams of My Father, you go to a certain page, and what does it say on that page? It says, while I was at Columbia, I didn't go to class much, and I spent my time going to the Cooper Union to Socialist Party meetings. This is Obama's own autobiography. It's his words. So my joke that he never went to class, he attended Communist Party meetings, is 100% true. Obama admits it. Socialist Party meetings at Cooper Union in Union Square, New York. And so he was there, so the point is he certainly spent some time with some Columbia students, maybe not my friends, maybe nobody I knew, maybe not Professor Graff, maybe nobody in political science, but the man was somewhere on the campus, I assume. So what did he learn? Well, it's important to know the mindset of everybody else at Columbia. My classmates hated America. They spoke with glee about one day taking the system down. They blamed America for unfairness, racism, inequality, and a lack of social justice. Recognize those words? They come out of Obama's mouth every day. They come out of the mouths of everyone in the Obama administration virtually every day. My classmates proudly call themselves socialists, communists, and Marxists. And even though all of them came from wealthy families, and almost all of them came from wealthy white families, or perhaps because of that fact, they hated the rich, they despised business owners, and they talked all day long about how much they hated the white power structure, and it had to be dismantled to create equality in America. Can you imagine the overwhelming guilt these people felt that their parents were rich, and they went to the best prep schools, and it was easy for them to get into Columbia? Such guilt that they hated everybody who was white with money, even though they were white and came from money. And they talked all day long about how you have to dismantle the business owners, bankrupt them, and take capitalism down. Everything in their mind was based on social justice. Sound like the policies of anyone you recognize in the White House? Does it sound anything like we have to spread the wealth around? Or if you own a business, you didn't build that? How about Obama's hatred of Republicans, the fact that he will never negotiate? He's a liar. He talks about being a uniter, not a divider, and a moderate guy. When push comes to shove, he has no interest in ever negotiating. He thinks he's morally superior to conservatives. That attitude was born at Columbia, too. In 1981, when a student burst through the doors to our political science class and screamed, "The president's been shot, they've assassinated Reagan," my classmates gave a standing ovation. So if you're 20 years old and you give a standing ovation for a guy who assassinated, you think, literally, they thought he killed Reagan and Reagan was dead. If you would give a standing ovation to that, today you're in government or the media, and you wonder why they're radical. You wonder why they're extreme. You wonder why they talk about compromise but never do. They actually think they're morally superior. They think if you are a Republican conservative, you deserve to die for the sins of your beliefs. Well, I don't know. They gave a standing ovation for the death of Reagan. But there's more. We were all taught a simple but brilliant plan. 24 hours a day, we discussed it outside of class. So if Obama was ever there, he discussed this plan. And it was called Cloward-Piven, named after former Columbia professors Richard Cloward and Francis Piven, a husband-wife professor team who had left to go teach at NYU. And this plan was how you bring down America in the capitalist system. You do it by overwhelming the system with massive spending, massive entitlements, and massive debt. And that would cause the economy to collapse, wipe out the middle class, and bring Americans to their knees, begging government to save them. And it's the exact same plan Obama has implemented. It's happening right in front of you. And the centerpiece, by the way, is Obamacare. Obamacare is that plan. It's about bankrupting the middle class and addicting them all to government dependency. It's about redistributing wealth in the middle class and small business to Obama's voters. It's to wipe out the last vestiges of middle-class America, creating a two-class society, the super rich and the poor, both beholden and dependent on Obama and big government. And Obama learned well, because it's working to perfection. So that explains the plan, But how do you implement the plan? We were taught that at Columbia, too. A key component of the plan involved fooling voters by calling yourself moderate and a uniter, even though you're a radical Marxist. We were taught to never admit what you truly believe in and demonize your opponents, call them evil and greedy and extreme and radical. And how about this one? Terrorist. Did you notice how many people around Obama call Republicans and conservatives and Tea Partiers terrorists? Look in the mirror and call your opponents the very things that you are. Obama sure learned well. But I got much more to tell you. We're only scratching the surface. When I come back, we'll finish up with what Obama and I learned at Columbia, how to destroy America from within. White House down, folks. White House down. The guy in the White House is systematically taking the country and the economy down. This is war. I'm Allyn Root, and this really is war, by the way, an attack on the American people and capitalism. We'll be right back on Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Welcome back, Allyn Root. This is War. Guest host for Dr. Michael Savage. Phone lines, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. I want to finish up with my Obama background story at Columbia University, because that's where it all began, I'm telling you. So I'm telling you about the plan, and so far I've told you about the fact that nobody knew him there. Very strange. The ghost of Columbia, Barack Obama. Can you imagine if I told you somebody went to college with George W. Bush, same class, same major, both pre-law, class relatively small, 700 people, never met him, never saw him, never heard of him? First of all, if you went to college with a guy who became president of Walmart, everyone would be quick to take credit. I knew that guy. Let alone the President of the United States of America. Nobody will take credit for ever meeting him? Wow. You don't find that a little strange? And then I told you about Cloward Piven, the plan that we learned and the students talked about in their off time all the time. They sat there, everyone's a political person, a political animal at Columbia. So, while the rest of the world is drinking and partying, we were drinkers and partiers. We talked politics all day. Policy wonks and nerds talking politics all day. You have to understand what Columbia's like. We lost 40 football games in a row while I went there. It's not like it's a sports mecca. It's about politics. They used to chant from the stands when we were losing 50-0. They chant from the stands, hey, hey, yeah, yeah, nah, nah. You beat us today, but we're going to pay your check someday. So it wasn't about sports. It was about, making money in the real world. Politics and business. And those kids talked all day long about destroying the American economy. And so you learn that, and that's what's going on right now. Now, here's the third thing. We talked about Saul Alinsky. Saul Alinsky taught Obama and taught us at Columbia, hide your true intentions. In other words, misrepresent, commit fraud, lie. So Obamacare is about saving the uninsured, as opposed to what it's really about, income redistribution. Government regulations are to protect us from global warming, as opposed to wiping out small business. It's true intention. Amnesty for illegal immigrants is about fairness, as opposed to creating 12 million new Democratic voters. High taxes are to create equality, as opposed to starving Obama's political opposition and creating shared misery. Obscene government spending is about helping widows and orphans, as opposed to bribing Obama's voters with redistribution of wealth. Higher teacher salaries are to reward terrible performance, but they're for the kids, as opposed to the truth, enriching teachers' unions so they could funnel hundreds of millions of dollars to Democratic politicians. Bailing out GM was to save jobs, as opposed to the truth, saving bloated auto union pensions. It's always about lying to cover up the Marxist agenda of destroying the middle class, redistributing wealth, and putting big government in control of our every move. Why the lies? We were taught at Columbia that it's for the greater good, and we know what's best for those people, meaning the middle class. It's best for you to be in shared misery because it will equal equality and justice. The ends justify the means, and communism's always better for people in the end, and Obama learned well. And then the key to all of it, here's the real key to all of it. Turn the key right now. Boil the frog slowly. We learned at Columbia to set the fire so low the frog dies without realizing he's being cooked. By the time you realize you're being cooked, you are dead. That's why every Obama speech starts and ends with, "I'm here to save the middle class." Well, his actions are annihilating the middle class. He's boiling the frog slowly, and by the time the middle class realizes he's the killer sent to destroy him, and they're the prey, they're already dead. The root, excuse the pun coming from Wayne Root, but the root of every Obama policy, everything Obama does, and everything happening in the U.S. economy all started at Columbia. The entire Obama agenda to overwhelm the system, wipe out the middle class, bankrupt small business, destroy capitalism, it was all hatched at Columbia. Obama may have never attended class, but he learned well. He should have received the Karl Marx Award for student most likely to destroy America. What a story, huh? I'm Allyn Root. My book is The Ultimate Obama Survival Guide. To find out more stories about Obama and his past, go out and get The Ultimate Obama Survival Guide at Amazon.com. Great New Year's gift. Find out more at my website, rootforamerica.com. We'll see you on the other side of the break. Great guests coming up. Take some more calls, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. This is War.